Hey everyone, this is a late night live stream primarily to deliver a message. Some of you, actually the majority of you, are going to get this late, but right now, here it is. First of all, as many of you know, the groundbreaking for the Oakland Raiders, anyone who either wants to hear it or even if they don't want to hear it. The stadium groundbreaking is a marketing event that will not take away the great many problems that beset the stadium project. I'm not saying at all that the Raiders can't surmount them. They are surmountable, but they are arguably the largest ever presented for an NFL stadium project in history. There's been interesting messaging change. About a month ago, as some of you may recall, the general word on the street was, hey, the Raiders are going to stay in Oakland through 2022, try and work out a lease agreement. And while there's nothing to indicate that that stopped, after the events of 1 October, and starting about a week and a half ago, we started hearing that the Raiders were going to finish the stadium in 2020 in July. And that was put out by Steve Sisolak, not by the Raiders. And then Marc Badain at yesterday's Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting trotted out the idea that the NFL draft would be in Las Vegas in 2019. Now, people reporting this didn't stop to think, hey, wait a minute. The stadium's not going to be finished in 2019. Ideally, you want it at the new stadium, right? You said 2019 or 2020. Suddenly, there's this push to make you think that the stadium is back on track and was never off track and that there's nothing wrong. And then all that just happens to lead up to this groundbreaking. So Marc Badain puts out this pablum, and there's certain people that have eaten it up as if it were steak. And that is the general public and many people who are uninformed. I am explaining to everybody that there are a great many problems that still remain. Let's take them from the top. First of all, of the 14 major documents and 33 total, only one is finished, and that is the lease agreement that was signed by the National Football League and by the NFL owners. That was approved way back in May 23rd of this year. That's the first thing. The second problem is that we still don't have, of that, we don't have an agreement from UNLV. And as some of you have seen, the community benefits agreement is still very much outstanding. UNLV can simply drag out the process. They don't have to negotiate in a speedy way with the Raiders at all. They can simply maneuver this till they get to May 16th, 2018, and all of a sudden, hey, look, you know what? According to the Southern Nevada Tourism and Investment Act, the clock ticks, the alarm sounds, and UNLV goes to the governor and the Las Vegas Stadium Authority and says, we're ready to take over the project. We're ready to pick up where the Raiders left off. UNLV can do that. There's nothing in the law that punishes UNLV for waiting out the period and allowing that to happen. Nothing. Then there's something else. No one has been able to explain, or excuse me, no one has taken the time to explain, not that there was an explanation because there is, why it has taken up to 7 months and counting for the soil analysis on the site to be done. No one's been able to go out and say that. Not that they don't know the answer, but they're being prohibited from doing so, okay? And then, of course, there's the Bank of America loan, $850 million. When I put that into my spreadsheet that was based on the numbers that were created by the Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Committee's staff, including Jeremy Arguello, who's now with the authority staff, I came up with a $27 million deficit. Oh, and then speaking of such things as deficits, we have the famous stadium hotel tax. The hotel tax that right now is bringing in less money than projected. They didn't want to talk about it about that at the Stadium Authority meeting, right? They said that August was in deficit, but conveniently made it look like there was nothing wrong with September, even though you and I both know there is, because the chart says so. No one on the Stadium Authority board asked that question, or dare ask it. And then there's this other problem. And that problem has to do with the fact that we have 1 October. We already have a Stadium Authority stadium tax revenue that's in deficit, and that's before 1 October. Now here comes 1 October, and the very powerful possibility that casual travel to Las Vegas will decrease, as has been the case for every giant, terrible incident that has happened around the world to such tourist places, tourist meccas as France and Paris within it. France lost $843 million after the Paris attacks. If Las Vegas can weather that storm and come out better, it would be a miracle. There's nothing to indicate that miracle is going to happen. Not even the fact that we've had events already canceled and we don't know what's going to come on the horizon. We just know they're convention events, but in terms of the casual visitor, we don't know anything except fear. So there's the other problem. And the other problem is simply the channel. We do not know what the real cost of moving that channel is going to be, and we also don't know the water drainage issue and how much that's going to cost to fix. And then there's other problem. Another problem is huge. The SNTIA, the Southern Nevada Tourism and Investment Act, says that the developer, the Raiders, must pay an adequate amount for the improvement of highways, as well as streets and roads around the stadium lands. And don't forget, Clark County law says the Raiders themselves have to pay for, and prior to that, locate the lands for 14,000 parking spaces. A heavy load that, by my estimate, is going to cost almost $200 million, and no one has stepped forward to say that I'm wrong. So you've got those problems, and there are many more, standing in the way of this project. Yet, as someone else pointed out to me in the comment on one of the recent videos on the Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting, hey, it looks like somebody back there is pushing this agenda behind the scenes, like some money changing hands. It's clear that something's going on. Just what that something is, I don't know. But there is one other matter on top of everything else that I mentioned that threatens to plague the project, and that's the GOP tax plan. If the House version of the GOP tax plan passes, I don't care what Stephen Hill, the president of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, says, this deal's dead as it is. They can't do it because it would kill their ability to use Clark County as a backstop, where the Clark County general funds not only can't be used to cushion the possibility of having lesser revenue, you could not float general obligation bonds. You would have to redesign the deal at a much costlier level. And I point out something else too for those who've put out false information about the Oakland plan. The Oakland plan would not have been affected by the GOP tax plan. Why? Because it wasn't based on general obligation bonds. Remember, it was the genius of Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf to say, we don't want to use taxpayer dollars. And as much as people like the Raiders may have gotten upset with her, she read the tea leaves appropriately and realized that there was no stomach to do what the Raiders believe they can do in Las Vegas. If the the House version of the GOP tax plan passes, what will fall upon the Raiders in Las Vegas is what they were trying to avoid in Oakland. Ridiculously. They would have to do the kind of bond issue that was structured, planned in the Fortress case, a revenue bond. And because of the fact that the state of Nevada pretty much took away their ability to benefit from building a mixed-use development around it, and if you think about where the property is, where you're going to develop around the stadium that isn't already developed without it costing you a lot of money, you're looking at a much smaller revenue stream for a bond and therefore an interest rate that's going to be super high. I said 9%, that's not super high. It could be even higher than that. That is a very real possibility. So there I laid it out, folks. And with that, I'll take your comments. I didn't plan to stay up for a long time, but I wanted to get that out because I had gotten a number of notes and a number of questions and comments and messages over the past 8 hours. And I thought, you know what, let me just lay out the definitive message, or what I arrogantly believe is the definitive message on why this groundbreaking should not be thought of as the end-all be-all. Okay, that's why. So I'm going to put this, go to the watch page, and put this on mute and see what you have to say. And John Marc, say, how are you doing? Emil Scott, how are you? Lonely on Top, how are you? Joshua A.G. Adelson says Adelson. And he says, appreciate the lazy video, sir. Thank you so much. Emil Scott says, thanks for the stream. Hey, thank you very much. Joshua, can you explain what you mean by Adelson? I think I know what you mean, but I want like you to flesh that out. And then John Marc says, the Las Vegas meeting was hilarious to watch yesterday. It was hilarious and sad all at the same time. It really was. It was just something out of a horror story. And Joshua A. says the behind-the-scenes money moving. You know, I think one thing to look for at the groundbreaking is if Sheldon Adelson shows up. If Sheldon Adelson shows up, that tells you all you need to know right there. I mean, look, first of all, logically, he should be there because he spearheaded the project, right? He really should be there. He should be there, and the governor of Nevada. And if you want to do this right, also Majestic should be there as a way of saying thank you, as well as a number of people, lobbyists, representatives who were voted out of office later. They should all be there. I mean, if you want to do a groundbreaking right, you thank the people that initially got you there, okay? You don't forget about them. So you should look for that. If you see something less than that, there's a story. As I said the other night, I fully expect NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell to be there. Harry Dunn, he says, hey, Zenny, it seems like the Las Vegas Stadium Authority is so confident there is nothing wrong with the financing or anything else with this project. Why do you see no uncertainties? Zenny, seems puzzling to me. No, Harry, I don't see what you see. I see at all. Okay, and the reason why I don't is go back and listen to the comments by Jeremy Aguillo and by Stephen Hill and listen to the qualifiers like we expect, we should, or Aguilo's saying we're gonna just sort of get through this thing, all right? So when you say that, no. I mean, I would argue that you didn't listen carefully to what was going on in the meeting, okay? Because, or what was said and how people say it. Because, or listen to what Stephen Hill said about the GOP tax plan. He admitted, first of all, the amount of money, the dollars that they had estimated it was going to cost additionally is only $2 million less than my estimate, $29 million annually. But get this, they didn't use the term annually. They should have, because over a 30-year period, it comes up to over $800 million in additional cost. So I was right on. All right. Now, Stephen Hill also said that he didn't think that the problem wasn't insurmountable. That's him. He made it clear that was his opinion, as opposed to, hey, look, if he has to say it that way, it means that there's a problem. Okay? It really does. You know, I'll tell you where I am with this whole thing. As a person whose background in urban planning, I love big projects. I really do. Okay? But I like for them to be done the right way. Joshua Agee says, what is the date again for the GOP to pass? Well, it could be by the end of the year. There are people who are saying it should be wrapped up by the end of the year. Okay? And also, it's 4:04 here, and I'm going to have to get off the stream because I don't want to wake certain people up around the house. Just being real with everybody, okay? But I wanted to get this on. We could talk about this tomorrow, actually Sunday, all right? ML Scott says, aren't they still accepting deposits for the PSLs? If this is such a done deal, wouldn't the allotment set be sold out by now? Well, yeah. And nothing stopped, but that's my point. See, and I'm glad you mentioned that, ML, the groundbreaking and makes people think that everything is okay. And I understand that they don't know. You know, a lot of people aren't educated as to how buildings are developed, let alone NFL stadiums. Okay? And a lot of people in Las Vegas, this is new for them. Particularly something of this size. Which I argue, you know, should be done a different way, but that's another story. The Raiders missed an opportunity to do an innovative stadium that could pay for itself in the Las Vegas context. That didn't need that they could have designed it with a hotel system in it. They could have used my system in Oakland. They had that opportunity. They didn't. They could have used it, my hotel concept, as a way of fueling additional revenue for it, and they wouldn't have been playing at the margins. But hey, look, you know, some people like to think they have the ideas rather than the person that actually builds the models. Joshua Agee says, have there been groundbreakings in the past in the NFL that haven't went through with the project? There have been a number of proposals that have gotten to, you know, near groundbreaking that didn't go through. I mean, one that comes to mind goes all the way back to 1999 and through 2000, and that was the original plan to build a stadium for the New York Jets on the west side of New York. Over the rail yards, there's a set of rail yards that's just about west of Times Square, and they're enormous. But the idea was to build a sort of a, if you will, board over it. But the infrastructure costs, sound familiar, right, were proved to be too great, and the project never got off the ground. And ultimately, it gave way to what is now MetLife Stadium next to the original Meadowlands Stadium in the Meadowlands, right? Okay, so there's one example there. There's, wow, a number of examples come to mind that have to do with, well, let's take the downtown LA Stadium that came very close to a groundbreaking, and was fueled by a $700 million Farmers Field naming rights pledge, even before the drawings were ever completed for the thing, okay? And that never happened. Mainly because they couldn't get the NFL to really guarantee at the time. It was a matter of being off-timed. You didn't know if you were going to be able to get a team to move there, or if there was going to be an expansion team. There are a lot of uncertainties, okay? So it was just, the timing was off. And meanwhile, Stan Kroenke was doing his thing. You had basically three competing efforts. You had Carson, and we know what happened with that. You had downtown LA, and then you had, what that time was the moribund and now under development Inglewood project, okay? So so there's another example. But there have been examples right in Las Vegas of buildings that had groundbreakings that were never completed. Most notably the Fontainebleau, which stands there 70 stories high, Original cost over $2 billion. Never completed, sold for $190 million. Las Vegas has that and another example. So here we go with the Raiders. Okay. There's a lot of push to do things in Vegas. As a friend of mine told me, Las Vegas is big on following a trend. And then, okay, everybody jumps on the bandwagon. Like right now, it's sports. Oh, you got hockey. Oh, and then there's a push for baseball. Oh, and there's a push for basketball. And now in the NFL. But as my friend pointed out to me, who knows Las Vegas, something will fail. And they'll get off that and they'll turn to something else. That's the way Las Vegas works. So, Adonis asked, will Goodell be at the groundbreaking? I fully expect Roger Goodell to be there. I think it'd be a slap in the face to Mark Davis if Roger Goodell were not there. I fully expect him to be there. Emails, let's see here. And Lonely on Top says, they're forcing this and we'll deal with this train wreck deal later. Yeah. And so there's your answer to that question. All right. So it is now 4:10. The deal is obviously not dead. And I'm going to go head off to bed now. You know, I didn't expect to have 26 people this time of night. This is great. Thank you very much. But good night, everybody. I'll see you on Sunday, okay? And I'll have, I may do a live stream tomorrow, but not likely. Sunday, definitely. Sunday. I'll do some standard video on demands, but not a live stream. I'll see you guys. All right? See you. That's right. Bet your last money. It's all going to be a stone gas, honey. Thank you, John Marks. I'll see you guys. Hey, John, we have to talk about an idea I've got for a type of Comic-Con live stream series, you know, like make every Thursday. We'll talk. I'll see you. All right. I'll see you. See ya.